Hi everybody. So in this video I want to introduce you to a new device, which is the ultrasonic sensor. So let me walk you through what this thing does conceptually, and then we'll wire it up with the Arduino, and eventually what we're going to do is make a proximity sensor, which would be pretty cool. So what the ultrasonic sensor does is it measures how far away an object is from it using an ultrasonic pulse of sound. So this is essentially the same thing that bats do when they fly. They send out a little pulse or a little chirp, and then that pulse of sound gets reflected off objects, and they can hear the echo. And from how long it takes from when they emitted the chirp to when they hear the echo, they can deduce how far away things are. So this is exactly the same thing as what bats do. So what we have is we have two ultrasonic transmitters and receivers. So we have over here with the T, this is the transmitter, and then over here with the R is the receiver. These are both, I believe they're both piezoelectric devices, and they're actually the same thing. You can use piezoelectrics to both transmit and receive. But this one's the transmitter and this one's used as the receiver. There are 4 pins that you need to use to power it. VCC over here, this takes 5 volts, so that's the power pin. And then over on the other side, GND, that stands for ground, that should be the ground side. So that these two outer pins are what give the sensor its power. Then these two inner pins, you've got trigger and echo. The trigger pin is what controls the transmitter, and then the echo pin is what controls the receiver. So a signal will come to the trigger pin and it will emit sound, and then the echo pin transmits what's received by the receiver back to the Arduino. So the trigger and the echo, those are both going to need to go to the Arduino channels in order to control and receive the signal. So let me go ahead and wire it up in the Arduino, and we'll take a look at how we can use this. Okay, so now I've got the ultrasonic sensor hooked up to the Arduino board, and let me walk through the connections that I've made. So first of all, there's a lot of cables now going on, so we'll have to rely more on the colors. So for VCC, the power, I've got a red cable, and that's going to go to 5 volts on the Arduino board. Way over on the other side, for ground, I've got the green cable, and that's going to go to ground on the Arduino board. For the trigger, I've got this purple, or maybe it looks a little blue in the video, cable, and that's going to go over to channel 12. The echo pin is this yellow cable, and it's going to go over to channel 11. So now let's take a look at the code here, and we'll see how this, what's going on in the code, and then we'll upload it to the board and see how it works. So I'm using the SR04 example from the Elegoo Superstarter kit. This code was provided with the kit. And you have to use their special module for this, a special library. It has all the important code and all the important details. The next thing we can do is we can define a trigger pin and an echo pin, and we'll use pins 12 and 11 for that, since those are the pins that we've plugged the cables into. So the trigger pin, remember, is the purple cable going to pin 12 on the Arduino. The echo pin is pin 11, is the yellow cable going to pin 11 on the board. Now we can define a SR04 data type. We'll just give it that name, SR04. And then we need to tell it what pins we're using for the trigger and echo. And we've already defined those up here, so we can just use echo pin, trigger pin up there. I'm going to define a variable A. It's of the data type long. If you don't know what a long data type is, don't worry about it. It's basically just a regular number. And so that'll be the distance that we measure. Let's go through the setup loop. We're going to look at this through the serial monitor, so we need to initialize the serial port, give it a second to work that out. And actually at this point we don't need this pin mode, so I'll get rid of that. We'll use that at a later point. So we'll just in the setup initialize the serial port. Now we can use the built-in function distance, so we can do sr04.distance, and that is what will send a pulse from the transmitter and then hear it on the receiver, and it'll figure out how far away the object was. We'll then print that to the serial monitor, wait a second, and repeat that. So we'll get to see how far away things are every second. I'll update that every second. So let's go ahead and upload this to the Arduino board, and then I'll pull up the serial monitor. I'll rearrange things a little bit. I'm going to move the Arduino board off screen so I can look just at this, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so I've reoriented the ultrasonic sensor so that it's right on the edge of the screen, and I've got the Arduino board off camera. And I've opened the serial monitor so that we can see what it's outputting. Right now I don't have anything in its proximity, so it's just reading things at the maximum distance. If I bring in an object, I'll bring in a breadboard, and you can see it's reading how far away that is. So it's reading 9 centimeters there. If I bring it in a little bit closer, reads 5 centimeters, 4 centimeters, bring it back out here, 14 centimeters, so on and so forth. So this allows us to measure how far away objects are using the ultrasonic sensor. And now with the barrier in the way, we can really see how it works. That pulse from the transmitter is emitted, it gets reflected off of this object, comes back and is detected by the receiver, and then the Arduino board does the necessary calculations to figure out how far away this object is from the sensor. What we're going to do next is we're going to set up a proximity sensor so that you get an alarm buzzer whenever an object gets within a certain distance of the sensor. Okay, so let me show you what I've done to the setup now. So I still have the ultrasonic sensor connected, and you can see the wires of it. I've just moved that off camera for now, but it's still connected just as it was a second ago. And I brought in the active buzzer. I'm using the blue cable to go to ground and the white cable to go to channel 8. So channel 8 will control the active buzzer. And what we want to happen is we want, whenever we get within a certain distance of the ultrasonic sensor, we want the buzzer to sound, to alert us that something's getting too close to us. And so let's take a look at the code. We'll modify the code a little bit. I've added some things in, and we'll see what we need to do. So we're starting again with our basic setup of the ultrasonic sensor. Nothing's changed here. It's still set up exactly the same. However, now I don't really want to read in the or use the serial monitor, so I'll get rid of that. And I need to add a pin mode. So channel 8 is going to be the output. That's what's going to control the buzzer. Once again, I don't really need to display things to the serial monitor, so I'll go ahead and get rid of that. I still need to figure out the distance, so how far away it is, so I'll still use that command. And then what I'm going to do is if the distance is less than some particular value, in this case I picked 10 centimeters, but we'll probably change that. Then what I'll do is I'll write channel 8 high. That'll turn the buzzer on. If that's not true, so if the distance is not less than 10, then we'll turn the buzzer off. And this should make a nice proximity sensor for us. So let me reconfigure things. I'll bring the ultrasonic sensor in and move the buzzer off camera, and let's see if we can get this to work. Okay, so I've got the Arduino board and the buzzer off camera, but they're still hooked up as I showed you before. I brought the ultrasonic sensor in, and let's bring in our wall. And as we come closer, the buzzer sounds when we get to within a certain distance. We can change this distance from 10 to maybe 5. Let's go ahead and re-upload. Whoops, and I've got an error. I need to close out something here. Let's see if we can try that again. We got it uploaded. So now I should be able to get a little bit closer before the buzzer goes off. So let's see. And so that works. So that's a neat little thing. We can set up a proximity sensor using the ultrasonic sensor and the active buzzer to make a little alarm. And you might see something like this. One area you could envision a proximity sensor being useful might be on a car if you want like some accident avoidance. If you get too close to some other car, you can set off an alarm bell. Or if there's some sensitive equipment, various things like this, you could imagine more proximity sensors could be useful. So, neat little project.